When Maya and I first started doing this, we had one little pony named Sassafras. And now we're at the point where we have 47 horses. And it's kind of an amazing thing to see this journey and see what it looks like now.
Today we're going to learn about a nonprofit organization dedicated to saving horses in need and giving them a second chance at life. Join us as we visit with Maya Prue, Executive Director of Hope's Legacy Equine Rescue. Come on.
From my very first horse, I had always had one rescue at a time, and at a certain point I just decided that I wanted to be able to help more horses on a larger scale.
Okay, so what is the story behind the name of this rescue?
So Hope is actually the barn name for an off-the-track thoroughbred that I own. And she wasn't actually a rescue, but she was on the track to end up in a bad situation. She had only stopped racing about 6 months before I got her, and she had already gone through 5 different homes at that point. And since that's what we're trying to do for these horses, it really fit.
Well, talk about the horses that you take in. What kinds of horses are these?
So we take in all breeds of horses, as well as mules and donkeys. We take owner surrenders. We also take in animal control seizure cases. They will frequently call us and ask us to house the horses during the case and then help place the horses after the case is over.
So give us examples of when you're talking about animal control cases, what's going on?
So the biggest one that we've been involved with, of course, was the Peaceable Farm case up in Orange County, Virginia. And in that case, there were 101 horses on the property that were in various different stages of starvation, and many of them also had injuries that had not been treated. Of those 101 horses, our rescue took in 29 of them. At this point, we had to euthanize 6 and 1 had a heart attack.
They were just too sick?
But they were just either too sick or had injuries that had not been treated properly, and because they had not been dealt with at the time, they reached a point where the horse was no longer able to be saved, unfortunately. They would not have had any good quality of life.
So tell me, what happens once they come here? What happens?
So we bring them in, and then we assess them for just their very basic health needs at that point. Depending on their condition, we don't do vaccinations and stuff like that immediately because their systems are just so depleted that their bodies can't really handle them.
No, you have to move really slowly with everything you do.
And with the refeeding, you start with just a little bit of hay at a time and slowly increase them, and then you start adding in various different feeds, but you do that literally a cup at a time. And that's one of the hardest things is, these horses come in and they're pretty much walking skeletons.
Yeah.
And the natural instinct is you want to just throw food at them.
Right.
But their bodies actually will start shutting down. Their internal organs will start shutting down, and you have to kind of restart them very slowly.
Their stomachs knows, their ears knows, their noses know, and they pace and they whinny and they wait for their food, and they're a little demanding about it now, and it's awesome to see because it really means that they're healthy and they can understand their surroundings and what's going on. Yeah, it's coming, Daphne.
After they come from a bad situation, they can be brought somewhere like this and be given the love and attention that they deserved, and really just be cared for.
Yeah, it's sad, but you can't think of it like that. You got to think of it, we're here to help, so there's no more sadness. Leave that behind, and let's deal with being happy and getting them big and strong for their future life. And he is even very happy too.
You had a horse come in that was pregnant. You didn't even know she was pregnant, Rain.
We did, yes. Rainey surprised us back a couple of weeks ago with a baby, and my husband actually found it. He walked into the barn and there was this foal standing in the aisleway, which is, I won't repeat what he said because it's not really suitable for television, but we had just started looking at her and thinking, boy, she's getting a little round, and yet her spine and her hips were still protruding, so she was still basically very underweight, but the belly was getting big.
But she just decided She didn't attach
She
to
rejected
the
the
baby.
foal,
Right.
yeah.
And so now
And-
who's with the foal?
So the donkey from Orange County is actually the babysitter right now. I think he's a little resentful of the fact.
But they're
He's-
together all the time.
They are.
right?
They're together 24/7, and when the baby gets too rambunctious, the donkey just very gently puts him in his place and reminds him of his manners. It's really wonderful.
Oh, and then you had another horse that came through that actually had chemical burns. Talk about that.
Yes.
And what you had to do.
So a number of the horses from the case that Rainey came from actually had chemical burns on them. The owner of these horses poured pyrethrum on them, which is a cattle wormer, very concentrated. So we bathed them with Dawn, but then many of them lost huge amounts of hair because of the chemical burns. And we didn't know if they were going to be able to regrow that hair or not. And none of the vets that we spoke to had ever dealt with anything like it. But they have all regrown hair. Some of them it's a different color from the rest of their hair, and you can see the drip patterns on their sides from where it was poured.
Well, once the animals are starting to feel better, the horses are starting to feel better, then talk about their care every day. They go walking.
So yeah, many of our farms, they have daily turnout, so they can be out in the field pretty much full time. We do have one location currently where they don't have any turnout, so I have amazing volunteers who come every day and they take the horses out and let them hand graze in the grass, and we've got a couple of small round pens where they can go out, and they really enjoy the interaction with the people, and it's great for my volunteers too. They like getting to know the horses and
I bet.
see their personalities start to show up.
It gives me, a sense of accomplishment and a reason for being here and a reason for, existing. It's something that I can help with. It's something that seems so insignificant, but then, to these horses, it's just the difference between life and death in some cases. So it's just giving them the love that they deserved.
My favorite part is running around. It gets a lot of my energy out, and seeing them very happy when they go out to graze.
Yeah, she's doing really well. One of the biggest changes I've seen in Daphne and all the other horses is their energy level. When we first got them here, they kind of were lackluster and very low energy, and now, as you can hear and see, they want to go outside, they have energy, and they have muscle tone, and that's something that they didn't have prior to getting here and getting some good care.
How long do most of the horses stay with you?
It really varies. Some horses are in and out in a matter of a month or two. Other horses will be with us for a couple of years. Usually if they're with us for a long time, it's because they're not able to be ridden. They're just a companion horse, and finding people who want to adopt companion horses is really difficult. We love it when we get an email or a phone call from somebody saying, I just want a horse to come sit in my field.
And so how do you assess when they're ready to go?
There's no exact science to it. Some of it's knowing the horse's personality. Depending on the horse, we'll send them to a professional trainer for an assessment to see what they know, what they need to work on. Sometimes they'll spend a couple of months with the trainer, getting them to the point where they are able to be ridden. Also, it's matching the right person and the right horse.
Right.
I do have some horses that I will send out without doing training because I know the person, or the person who contacts me is a trainer or has a huge amount of experience. So it's a really individualized thing based on the horse and the situation.
The hope is that they're all adopted. And so what's that process like?
So we have an adoption application, and anyone who's interested in adopting a horse from us fills that out. And that includes references, and we ask for professional references like their vet, their farrier, anybody who is familiar with them and their experience with horses. And looking and seeing what their other horses look like and how they interact with them is actually one of the most reliable, I guess, indicators of what sort of situation it'll be. And then they come out and they meet the horse, they ride it if it's a rideable one, and we just make sure it's a good fit. And we do a trial period, somewhere between 30 and 60 days, and the horse can come back to us at any point during that time frame and they'll get their adoption fee back. And then our horses also come with a safety net where they can come back at any time in the future, even if the person that we adopt the horse to ends up moving it on to somebody else, that horse can still come back to us. So basically the contract goes with the horse for its entire future, but it doesn't necessarily stay with one person. In fact, I just got some photos this morning from a woman who just bought one of our ponies from the woman who adopted it from us, and she sent me these wonderful photos of her daughter riding this pony with this long explanation of how much they loved the pony, how wonderful she was, and how much they appreciated that they were able to get her.
That is so great. And I
keep
know
her.
sometimes folks who have to surrender their animals because they're not well, because they can't care for them, they sometimes set up Facebook groups so they can keep in touch and see how everybody's doing.
Yes.
Well, so, okay, so you started this organization in 2008, and it's a nonprofit now, and you have some big goals for the future, so
We
you
do.
don't have to lease
We
land.
do, because we are currently leasing or fostering horses on all of the properties that we're using. And we are looking to purchase land and build a barn and have one main facility. We'll continue to use foster homes because for some horses it's a better situation. They get a little
Right.
more personalized one-on-one. But having one centralized location and having that security for the future, that when horses do come back to us, we have somewhere for them to go and somewhere for them to live out their lives. And
Yeah. People are going to want to help. I know they're going to want to help.
Yes.
So how do people get involved? What do you need them
The
to do?
easiest way is to contact us through our website, which is www.hopeslegacy.com. And we need volunteers to help with just the
Right.
day-to-day care, the feeding, the stall cleaning, the brushing the horses, socializing them. We need people to help with fundraising. Of course, it takes a huge amount of fundraising to feed all of these horses. And also just helping spread the word that we exist.
Yeah.
We need folks to know that we are here and want to help as much as we can.
It's sad that it's happening. You know, you don't ever want to see a situation where animals are put at risk, but the fact that we have a person in Maya who is so well educated and experienced in how to manage these situations is why we're growing the way that we are, and it's pretty amazing to see it.
You're welcome.